Hello, everybody. It's Steve Richard here from Exec Vision with a call camp that, I mean, the story behind this one is just almost unbelievable. So I was moaning and groaning on LinkedIn. It was an innocent enough comment saying, boy, I've invited a lot of women to join as my guest coach for call camp, and nobody ever says yes. I mean, anytime I asked a woman, they were always too busy with something else, or they told me no, and it reminded me of high school all over again. I got depressed. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I get, Lauren Bailey leading the charge with another, amazing group of women saying, hey, look, we not only do we want to do call camp, but we want to take over call camp. Ladies take over call camp. So you're in a very special edition. You're in great hands. I'm now going to hang up because they said as part of this is I can't be a part of it. So without further ado, take it away, Lauren.
Hey, thank you so much, Steve Richard. Welcome to the Women Takeover Call Camp. Let's take a look at our panel of amazing experts here. I think you can probably see us all. If you want to wave hello, I'm going to let you stalk us all on LinkedIn like we know you're going to do anyway. But just know you're in very good hands, and let's get right to the meat of it. Sam, hit us on the next slide. Let's talk for just a second about the power of women in sales. Alice, you gave us this first stat. Talk to us, Alice Hyman. I've got Alice on mute. I can't hear you, darling.
Oh, sorry. So it's kind of interesting. The workforce is 50-50, but when you look at women in sales, it's only 39%. So it makes you wonder, why is that when sales is such an amazing profession for women? Got to think about that, ladies. Get into sales.
And I love that we have hundreds of women. There's hundreds of women in sales who are tuned into this. We broke records. And I think that shows a little bit of girl power. But tell us about the next step.
Definitely. So, the other thing to think about is that although there are 39% in the sales force, moving up the ladder to manage sales or be a VP of sales, the stat is lower. So only 21% of the VPs of sales are women. So why is that? Why are women not necessarily looking up to see that they can climb into those positions? Again, a fabulous career for a woman. It's getting better, but why not make it 50-50?
Yeah, and I think that's interesting. The number of women in sales is getting better, albeit very slowly at 3% in 10 years. But the number of women in sales leadership has been flat for that same decade. So all of us on this call are really passionate about helping pull more women up into the ranks of sales leadership. So any woman who's listening to this right now on the call, make sure you clue in and tune into the very end, because we've got some great tips about how to up level your career. And we're going to tell you about a program called Girls Club that's there to help you up level your career as well. I'm going to turn this over to Carol for a second, because you have some great stats to talk about. And I'm sorry, it's a fact now that women are actually better at sales than men, right? So show us a couple stats on that.
Well, and statistically speaking, that's true. If their win rates are on average 11% higher than men's, their quota attainment is 3% higher. They stay in their roles longer. And one of the things that the same stat found from Exactly was that despite all of that, they're averaging an average of $25,000 less a year in salary. And the takeaway from that is we are, as Lauren likes to say, badass salespeople. Don't be afraid to ask for the raise.
I love it. I love it. So let's turn over for a second. Regina, our current VP of sales from Crayon Software. You are our current badass in this, and you've got one more stat you want to close this up with, right?
Well, just building on what Carol said, I think it's pretty interesting that the University of Houston, my alma mater, has a sales major, and they are wonderful at it. And Professor Laban at U of H did an analysis of 7 years worth of data on his sellers there at the university. And the results actually showed that 62.5% more females were top performers than males. And of those female top performers, they actually outperformed the male top performers by 74%. So back exactly to Carol's point, don't wait for perfection, get in the game.
Wow. Wow. So we are like, we need to take over more often and listen to some. We are going to be coaching calls by women as well. We invite you to tweet us along the way, #CallCamp. Bring your questions, bring your comments. Sam's going to help pull them in along the way. In the meantime, let's talk about our focus of today's call, cutting the fluff. So I'm going to own it. The truth of the matter is, I think that when you rank how confident people sound on the phone, as women, I think that we would be below men in terms of how we come off in terms of our confidence, right? And a big reason for that is fluff. We heard that, and we will on some of the calls today. So let's talk a little bit about ways to cut that fluff. Jane, you had a great point on this earlier. What's the fluff you hear that we need to cut more of?
Well, you have your point there about being aware of our own speed, our own tone of voice. But where I see an opportunity for improvement for a lot of sellers is they're not tuned into the prospect's tone of voice and the prospect's speed. We're so far in our own world and myopic about what our own goals are for the call that we're not tuned into how engaged our customer is for us.
Yep.
It's the equivalent of a keynote speaker that's just talking at the audience, but not aware of some of the response that you're getting back from the audience. This is a two-way conversation, although a lot of sellers don't treat it that way.
And I love that women sometimes sound a little fluffier. There's a little more small talk and lack of confidence in there. But what you're saying is our way to fix that plays on one of our stereotypical strengths, which is actually connecting to people, right? Let's not sell at people. Let's engage and have this human conversation. Carol, you have the first bullet on this slide. You're a huge proponent of using tools like Exec Vision, right?
I am, and there's psychological and scientific reasons for it. But one of them is when you're listening to yourself, and it gives you some emotional distance from what's going on. It's almost like you're listening to someone else if you're brave enough to actually do it. But the thing that I love about sales is that we have within our own hands the ability to control our outcomes. So if you really want to control your outcomes, take your coaching into your own hands, listen to your calls, look for how quickly you're speaking, as to Jane's point, your tone of voice, what filler words are you using, and use that awareness to then go to your manager or one of your peers and say, help me to practice this so that I'm not using these words, so that I'm speaking slower and I'm engaging. It's all within our hands.
Yep. Oh, I love that.
The number one fastest way to improve your sales calls is to listen to them and analyze them, period.
I agree. My background is always in building new hire training programs for new salespeople. And I think the number one way to cut ramp time is by recording and listening to calls. It's game tape is what the boys would call it in the locker room. Regina, I want you to finish up on this one. I love your point about being on a quest for knowledge.
Yeah, I think we often forget that, we go through a lot of training, and it's product training or services training, and we want to show up and tell them all about how great we are. And we forget that we need to join that conversation, as Jane identified, and be on a quest for knowledge. You're there to learn the why behind why the customer would want to engage with you, and ask as many questions as you can, smart questions as you can, to get them to teach you what's most important and valuable to them so that you can make a richer conversation of it.
So when we're on a call and we're feeling a little nervous about what we're going to say next, and we're in our own heads, right? Because we all know what that feels like. We've all been there. Instead, switch the tape and be thinking of what the next question is. So I'm going to pitch it next to Sean, Carol, Sandy, and I've waited, darling, to let you talk yet, because you are one of the most confident women that I know. And I want you to talk to us about cutting the fluff and our next slide, sounding more confident.
Oh, good. Okay. I found listening to yourself is the best way, yes, but being prepared, understanding why you're calling, having a reason to call. Do you know, even on the buyer end, how many calls I get where people can't tell me upfront why they're calling?
Yes.
I just get to it. We don't yet, if this is a cold call, we don't yet have a relationship. I need to understand the context within which you want to form a relationship with me. That upfront is clear. You're cutting the fluff. You're not, it's not a, how's your day? How's your mom and them? I don't care yet. I want to understand why you're calling. Say it clearly and confidently. And that is tremendous. That helps you cut the fluff tremendously.
Yes. You'll see yourself get cut off less often. Yeah. Show us the next slide, Sam, while Sean speaks to that.
Okay. Sounding more confident. Is that the next slide?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and Sean, I actually have a question here from the audience. It's from a client success manager who wants to know, they often end up on calls with more experienced executives, particularly older men, and as a woman, she gets written off a lot. They don't trust her as a reputable source for information. How can she, in particular, establish authority and get people to stop for a minute and actually pay attention?
Okay, there's three things. I'm going to try to do this succinctly. Sounding more confident is understanding why you're calling in the context of what's important to that executive. If you are, maybe someone who doesn't have as much time in the seat, have the acumen and feeling a little bit like, why would an executive talk to me? You have to figure out a way to power through that. And a lot of that's going to be, you have to be concrete in knowing why you're calling. And then a good way to attach why you're calling is to use context proof, or so I think some people call it social proof. I'm calling because we work with your counterparts at Coca-Cola or Verizon or someplace else. That proof of who you've been successfully aligned with gives you instant credibility, should anyway, with that executive. It grounds you in a reality that they can attach to. It's clear and it's upfront in the conversation. You've stated your purpose and you've aligned yourself with something that's important to him, or he could mirror his own, weight with. Those
John,
are two
I love
ways.
your next point. You're then about pausing on that intro, right? That intro is key to set yourself up for success. So we got to practice the heck out of our intro, right? Whether we're using value or social proof to sound confident, but then we have to pause. Talk to us about that.
Well, that's another. We also have a social contract. So you want your prospects to be successful. They want to be successful on the call. And so many times we run through our introduction trying to cram in before they hang up on us, that we're not giving them that opportunity to be successful. So for instance, if I'm going to call someone, say, "Hey, Lauren, this is Sean Sandy from the selling agency."
Hi, Sean. Yeah, it was awkward for me. I couldn't not say anything.
Exactly. But we're all compelled to fulfill our end of a social contract. So what happens most of the time when you confidently say your name, maybe the company you work for, and then you pause, is that they're going to respond with, "Well, hey, Sean, what can I do for you?" And they've opened the door. They've invited you to have a conversation. That's all it takes. All it takes to be confident there.
I love it. And like, as soon as you get them speaking, now we're in a conversation, and that's the key. Alice Hyman, give us your 2 cents on this.
Confidence, right? Oh my gosh. I think that women tend to speak in a higher voice when they get on the phone for some reason, and that doesn't help us sound confident. So there are some breathing exercises and things you can do to just ground yourself and get to your regular voice, the voice that is natural for you, the pitch that's natural for you. You may have to practice that a little bit, but I think if you have a valid business reason for calling, like Sean was saying, and you practice saying what you need to say, so that, and using those pauses, people will respond. And those, maybe older, more senior people that you're a little bit nervous about, research them, know about them, know what they care about. Some of them write it right in their LinkedIn profile, what's important to them. And you can have questions ready to get them talking. So you can be more confident when you control the conversation, but controlling the conversation is about asking questions and listening, not about talking. We sometimes lose ourselves when we're talking and we start saying, and and like.
Yes.
So that confidence comes from knowing who you're calling, knowing what you're calling about, feeling secure that you really have something to offer, using those pauses. And really, it's about practice. If you practice those things, you'll be good at them when you're live.
Yes, I love it. What I'm hearing is make sure you know why you're calling, be prepared with your value and your social proof, be ready to pause, right? Some deep breathing exercises, because everybody's voice goes up. Let me just tell you, after coaching thousands of calls, it's just more obvious with the chicks. Let's just, that's all there is to it. I've got 2 specific things that I love to do when we're in training. The first one is set yourself up instead of pulling yourself down. When we're nervous about what we're about to say, we use these modifiers, not just the ums and the uhs, but, well, I'm not sure if I know anything, but, well, gosh, I don't know what I'm talking about here, but, well, who would listen to you, right? So instead, try entering the conversation with gravitas. Let me weigh in here. I've got 3 things I'd like to say about that. After my experience in the industry, what I recommend is, right? So when you have these little, setting yourself up, people are going to stop and listen a little bit. Sean Carroll Sandy did it beautifully when I tossed her a question. The second one we've used in training is, it's a little silly, but when you find yourself doing the upspeak, hi, my name is Lauren, right? What we coach people to do is add a damn it to the end of that for the rest of the day. Hi, my name is Lauren, damn it. That doesn't sound right. Hi, my name is Lauren, damn it. Hi, my name is Lauren, damn it. And then by the end of the day, you're dropping the damn it, right? Hi, my name is Lauren. Deal with that, right? And that really adds some of that gravitas in the confidence. Any last comments or tips to give our audience about sounding more confident before we listen to real calls?
I'd say you need to get yourself prepped in every way. And part of it is psychologically. And when I coach sellers and speakers, I say to them, you need to understand that that other person on the other end of the phone is really on your side, because there's nothing more agonizing than watching somebody fail. So once you engage with them, they want you to succeed.
Yes.
So you can get yourself mentally prepped to know that, and get that kind of, get yourself in that psychological place where you believe that those people can really be on your side if you add something of value. Then all that prep that Allison, Sandy or Sean told you about, you just set yourself up to be more confident, and all that prep really comes into play.
Yeah, it flows. It's sort of like, just pretend you're calling your mom or your best friend from college, and they can't wait for you to succeed. Carol, you had one last quick tip?
Yes, and this goes to Jane's point, mentally preparing yourself. One of the things that I coach a lot of salespeople to do, women and men, is to remember the person you're calling is the one with the problem. You're the one with the solution.
Love it.
So if you go into it with that mindset, you're the expert here.
Yeah.
That helps you to come through in your voice and confidence.
I love it. I love it. So those bully senior executive boys that are causing the problem for you, our question asker, right? It's really their problem, right? Pity for them if they're not listening to you. So we're going to listen to real calls next. Just a quick reminder on our next slide to tweet us if you've got questions or comments as we go in. Let's pull up Exec Vision and listen to some of these calls. This was fun. We all had a good time coming in and listening to the calls. I love where we can just add a little comment right at a place in the call. So that's cool. The first one is one that I submitted, and I will let everybody know that Sam and Exec Vision did a great job of cutting and editing these. So we're not going to out anybody with their name, company name, phone number, etc. So when you hear little jumps, that's what happened. So shall we listen to the whole thing through first and then get some feedback from our listeners and from our panel of experts? Go for it.
Yeah, Lauren, this one's short, so I'm just going to play it right from the top here.
Hello, this is Scott.
Yeah, hi Scott. This is Nicole. I'm calling with. We spoke a couple months ago. I think it was back in like April, and we were talking about possibly having the engineer in the area come in and give you guys just a tech update and some of the talk about some of the newer trends that are in the market. And you suggested that Q3 at the beginning of Q4 would be better. So I'm just calling to follow up on that to see if you had any interest in meeting.
We don't have too many things that are active at this point that I think would line up well that I can think of.
Okay, so then, okay, that's not a problem. I'll go ahead and just send you an email with my information and the engineer's information in case you end up needing us for any reason, and then I will go ahead and give you a call later in the new year.
Okay, that sounds good. I appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Goodbye.
You guys, I'm cracking up as I watch this on the screen. As soon as she lays down with the, okay, I'll take the no and I'll like it, the comments from the panel just lit up in Exec Vision. Did you see that? That was so fun. I love it. All right. So I don't even, like, who wants to start? Like, who can just pull this into a little summary for us on where we lacked the confidence? Sean, you want to hit it? Because your eyes just got wide, sister.
Yeah. Well, she was defeated before she started. She knew it, and that's why she had that, monologue up front. And clearly, if not an objection yet, it's pushback. And pushback is testing the waters. When people push back, there's like 4 to 6 common brush-offs and pushback. You have to be prepared for pushback and push back to their pushback. And oftentimes, That's when you get gold if you're really good at it. For instance, she had one place in this conversation she could have saved it after that long 28 seconds. He said, well, it doesn't line up with anything that we're doing right now. She could have said, well, what would line up with that?
Yeah.
And he just pushed her back, but she could have just dove right in and asked a question to save it. But instead, she confirmed his worst fears, that she had no value to offer, and that he had no reason to talk to her.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd like to add, I think that two things came out for me on this call. One is that this call isn't even just about this call. This call is about the call she had before this call, where she also didn't get to a why, didn't get to a problem, right? So she had nothing to add on this particular call. And the second thing is, so she jammed herself up even on the previous call before she got here. But also, she didn't bring anything of value to this phone call. So this is a second engagement with this customer. I would love to have seen her to bring some insight, something of value to this call, because how you sell is really a free example to your prospects about how you're going to solve problems for them when they buy from you. And what she displayed on this call was, dude, you're going to have to do all the heavy lifting because I'm not bringing anything of value to the conversation.
I'm going to go through the motions. Yeah. I want to make a comment about that. Like, it's obvious in her 28-second monologue at the beginning that she's reading notes from her CRM, right? Like, talked last time, decided, yada, yada, yada. It's obvious she's trying to set up an appointment for somebody in the field. And the other thing that's obvious to me is that she got instructions from, her manager, or this was the strategy on the floor, that we're going to set up these field appointments to do a tech check and to talk about trends in the industry. That's what she's supposed to be selling. I think that her management failed her as well. Okay. Yeah. She doesn't get the why. Like somebody has said, here you go. Here's your outbound script. Right? Like, why the hell would I want to do a tech check? What's in it for me? Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a story about how a tech check saved somebody hours or dollars in the past? What kinds of trends are happening, and what value can you add to my business if we have that discussion? She just read her notes, said what she was supposed to say, and got the heck off the call. So we need to help our sellers be more confident as well by finding the value and hearing the proof points and the stories that provides to the customers. Because basically, I got to be honest, right now, she's just taking up space. She's not selling. She's just checking boxes in the CRM, right?
Well, just twice, which makes it just totally negates anything she was saying anyway. And if I was coaching this salesperson, I would say to them, let's prepare ahead of time, do a little research. Let's state clearly our valid business reason for calling up front, and let's practice so you have more confidence. And then also I would work with this salesperson on what to say when they object, or when they just kind of, oh no, thanks, we don't need anything, to slide into that opportunity. So if I listened to this call with her, I would have stopped it at that point and said, okay, there's a point. What could you have asked at that point? So I think this is a great opportunity to coach this salesperson to really help them improve for the next call.
Absolutely.
What I love about what Alice said is that this is an objection that this person is probably getting all the time. This is not a surprise what this gentleman said to her. So this is an objection we should be prepared already. Yep. With what we know what we're going to say when somebody says to us, yeah, I don't really see a need for that right now.
Bingo. Bingo. Regina, last point here.
Yeah, so for this particular caller, I have P&L responsibility, and I'm making decisions every day, and I get a bunch of these calls. And so if you are watching this and listening, and you find yourself on that treadmill of calling to touch base and follow up on the call me back laters, you're not prepared for your day. And so I would really encourage everyone who's listening today to say, how am I prepping for all my follow-up calls? Do I have important market information or competitive information about a particular vertical market, et cetera, that I can bring value so that myself, when I pick up those calls, am not going to give you another brush off and say, yeah, call me after the first of the year. Because I'm like this guy. I'll be somewhat nice to you, admittedly, and say, yeah, call me later. I can't do this now. Or I'm walking into a meeting and I'll be sitting at my desk. So if you're in that mode and you come into these calls expecting rejection, which I think she did, She was
Oh, yeah.
expecting call me again later. Stop, get off the treadmill, go get prepared and change your game by being prepared for these calls moving forward.
Bingo. I love it. So, and the things we need to prepare are, what's the value, right? Our opening so that it's less than 10 seconds, not 30 seconds. Maybe some social proof points, some questions. So when we get a chance to actually engage, we're actually having some back and forth, and then some responses to the common brush offs. And let's be clear, a dismissal that happens at the beginning, which is, you know, the I'm busy or the Regina, I'm walking into a meeting, complete fabrication, right? Everybody does it. It's not an objection. It's not, I listened to your offer and I believe it doesn't have merit for the following reasons. It's just a leave me the hell alone. You didn't warrant any of my time right now. So let's practice our responses to those coming in as well. Really nice comments, everybody.
And you're going to sound totally different than everybody else that's calling me. So sound different.
Yeah, I think somewhere out there, especially in this new world we have of sales development or business development reps who are making these cold calls, right? If they actually get, like, let's be honest, it's dial tone, voicemail, 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 voicemail. Oh my God, a live body, right? I mean, that's what the day looks like. And we haven't taught them the importance of really engaging and what the goals of calls are. So she actually believes she's doing her job very well. I filled out my notes in my CRM. I got a hold of this person. He said to call back. Isn't that great? He's never going to talk to you, darling, ever. And your goal isn't to check the box. Your goal is to have the business conversation. And we've got to prepare them a little better, I think, to do that. Sean, this next call came from you. Can you set us up?
Sure. So I'd like that we listened to several calls, and I hope we get to this one plus today if we have time. But I think it was really important that we listened to calls various stages too. This was a discovery call. It's a long call, a very long call. And the purpose of that is that it's a pretty complex marketing solution that our sales pro is trying to sell. She's talking to the marketing director. We're going to play the end. Back up. She's talking to the marketing director who is trying to expand a new product into a small niche global market. So they're really questioning, will this work? How this work? They've never done this before. And so they have a really good conversation, but we're going to play the end where I think, you know, sometimes when you see sellers on the phone or hear them and they have a successful call, we can kind of lose it at the end and not really understand what we need to do to advance the opportunities. And advancing the opportunities is all about your cues from the buyer. So this end portion here, it is a little bit long, but I want our listeners to really pay attention to what cues is the prospect giving us and what should we be picking up on and what responses should we have to those cues to advance the opportunity.
I love that. And because we get to listen to somebody else doing it, we can ask ourselves, how would a really confident person respond to those cues? All right, let's take it away.
Great. And what I'm going to do, ladies, is as your comments pop up, please tell me when to stop so you can make a valid point so we're not listening to a 7-minute chunk. So here we go.
Yeah. But I'll send you all this in follow-up pages so that you don't have to remember it all. But yeah.
Okay, because it sounds okay. You have like a set number of hours that we're seeing per week or per month for that?
Yeah, 40 hours a week, 150 hours a month. Yeah.
Okay. And then after the pilot program, does the pricing change or does it stay like in line more or less the same as that, or does it go to like an annual contract? Does it work longer term?
It's up to you. If you want to do an auto renew, if you want to renew for another 3 months, you can do it at $4,400 a month. Sometimes people are so like, this is working, so they go to 6 months, then it comes down to $4,200, or they go to a year.
So I think what's really interesting here is that in this whole end section, really the customer is giving a lot of clues. She is buying signals. Yeah. And in this particular instance, she is thinking about after the pilot, after this first, we're going to be successful. So, you know, I think that their response to what happens next after this first pilot that we purchased was a little bit transactional. Instead of thinking, wow, she's really bought in. Let's talk about how successful this could be and have some rich conversations about what's next. It just felt transactional to me. Jane, I think you had a comment too.
Yeah, I agree. I think actually the majority of this call was transactional, and the opportunity that this seller had, and I'm going to use Regina's words, give me the why. You know, what does great look like? What's going to get this lady a promotion? What is the emotional trigger that's going to make her want to pick this? By not getting that and being so tactical all the way along the call, we really, A, don't know what's going to make this person buy, and B, we've really set ourselves up as no different than any of the competition because we're so tactical, right? Mm-hmm. What we know, people don't buy from logic. They buy for an emotional reason. They justify it with logic. This caller is so, this sales rep really just got so tactical. She never got to that emotional why.
What a good point. Shall we move on and listen to more?
Support development, but again, we like to keep things really flexible for you and the cost as low as possible.
Okay, yeah, it's reasonable. It's within our budget, which is good. That's too hard. Okay, let's see. I think that's all I had. Yeah, and I'm going to be having a call with them on Monday. So, yeah, I think the approach would be nice. I do have one other company that I like. So what I would probably do is—
Yes, I was going to say, stop right there. Go ahead, Jane.
The other thing I was going to say is, did you hear her talk about they? The prospect referred to two other stakeholders early on in the call. Right now, we still don't know what they care about.
Or their names or anything. And I would ask, so what would you need to be successful? So, you're going to talk to the other players, the other people involved in making the decision. Tell me, what will you need to be successful at that meeting and offer them what they need? So I can, basically, can I help you get ready for that meeting and get them what they're going to need?
Yeah, how do I arm you?
Possibly, I just want to give everybody a chance to write that down. Alice, say it one more time because it was fantastic. What will you need to be successful?
What will you need to be successful at that meeting? So what are they going to want to know, and how can I help you be successful at that meeting?
Thank you for letting me interrupt you, Carol. Take it away.
You're muted.
Oh, we got you on mute, Carol. Muted. It's fun to watch people talk with their hands when their voice isn't happening. Isn't that great?
So to both Jane and Alice's point, earlier in the conversation, she had mentioned these other two stakeholders early on, and she had said they're really excited about a couple of things. Never asked what they were excited about, which was a perfect opportunity to find out what was their real reason for doing this. And we're about to hear her go into talking about other companies that they're talking to. So not only do we not know about the stakeholders internally, but who else are they comparing to? What do they like most about the ones that they've already looked at? And it was just another opportunity to add more clarification questions.
Yeah, we always want to find out who else is going to be involved in the decision. And even if we don't ever get to talk to them, we want to know how to help the person get the information to the others involved in the decision.
I really love that reframe. I think a lot of times we are nervous to ask about the competition. And instead of being like, ooh, give me insider information to help me win, I feel like something I shouldn't be asking. It's, how can I help you present this and present me? Because obviously we're on the same side and you love my opportunity.
That's the ticket right there, Lauren. It puts you on the same side of the table as the prospect.
Mm-hmm. I really love that insight. Nice comments, you guys. All right, take it away.
That Christy and Terry have a follow-up call, like with me and then with the other company, just to compare, and then they can make the final decision on which one they prefer, because ultimately they're going to be the ones working on the project.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Are there things that you especially like about the other company that, you don't have to tell me what the other company is, but are there things that are especially appealing to you about them?
Yeah, I like the approach of again, the qualitative over quantitative and very personalized approach. They're more about the appointment setting part and less about the marketing side. So I'd probably look at that internally and see, check with the guys, make sure I don't want to get my marketing team upset about it.
So right there, if this question had been asked in the beginning, the entire demonstration and pitch that had happened after it would have been completely different. When she found out what it was that they liked about the approach of the other company and found out that the fact that they worked with the marketing team and had a different approach, she could have totally customized the rest of her pitch to be specific to that.
Good point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
ask the questions up front. Don't do the demo or the pitch until you've asked at least 5 questions and you know what's important to them. You will sound different than everybody else. I will tell you that when people try to do meetings with me and show me software, at this stage, I just take them from my car. Like I could give a damn. I don't want to see, like, I'm not even looking at the screen. I just know they're going to get in and just show me the software. And every once in a while, I'm just like, cool. Yeah, that sounds great. It's worthless because they haven't
resist the urge to solve too soon.
Yeah, that premature pitch. All right, keep going.
Yeah, and one more thing, I think just finding out how they're going to make the decision. So it sounds like you have a lot of solutions that you're looking at, or you have a few different solutions that you're looking at. Tell me, what are you going to base your decision on? What are the key factors? So she said what she liked a little bit about the other, but she didn't tell us, we didn't get to what are the key factors. And that would have helped me arm her to go into her meeting if I know what the key factors are.
And ladies, everybody on this call has come up in sales and led people and budgets, et cetera. So we get a lot of sales calls. Aren't you dying for people to ask you that?
Yes. I'm dying for them to ask me anything.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that. I spend more time coaching people that cold call me because I can't resist it. You know, I'm like, did you really think that was going to get you anywhere? Right.
Like,
and I know Sean does the same thing because she talks about it a lot on her podcast.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that was terrible. Let me help you.
So
great blog material. I love to be cold called. Makes for fantastic blog material and coaching lessons.
Oh, you guys, really, all you have to do is be incrementally better than the other person that they called. Incrementally better.
You know, and think about what you sell
exponentially improve your close rate.
Yeah. Most of us do sell something that's really so similar to what everybody else sells. So how we sell it becomes super important because everyone else is doing these bad calls, bad pitches, talking over, not asking questions. So if you just sell better, you're going to win more deals.
Yep. I'm telling you, ladies, pick 3 tips from today. Work on them for a couple months and you will automatically, very quickly be outselling everybody else. I just love that moment though, where we changed from salespeople and sales coaches to the decision maker side of the table. And as soon as we all put on that hat, we were just desperate for people to be better.
Succeed.
Yeah. And if you think about it, isn't it almost ironic, right? That the people who we're listening to here are these brave women who submitted their calls. These are young women starting out their career. They haven't received a lot of sales calls. Right? People aren't trying to pitch them, so they don't have that perspective. Yeah, it was interesting. All right, let's finish this out.
Well, so let me tell you why I brought that up is important. Is because we have found that if we just go after appointment setting and we haven't looped in any ideas that marketing has at all, that's what makes them mad. So that's at the end of the day. The only thing that we're judged on is appointments and quality of appointments, and being as non-disruptive to your business as possible. So I don't want you to think that this has to be a big marketing effort. I just want you to know that if your marketing team does feel a need to get involved, we can accommodate that. And if you don't want them to, that is not a problem. Not a problem.
And it could help them. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, again, it's something we've never done, and our marketing team is, I totally, a lot of companies have this, but you're always trying to help, marketing and sales work together, like seamlessly and kind of get along.
I'm going to jump ahead really quick, another 30 seconds, to where some more of the comments are.
Yeah. She really liked the fact that we could potentially also do something outside of the U.S. If it's working. That could be very interesting.
Stop right there.
I mean, longer term.
So what she said there is, I think that she's talking about one of the other 2 stakeholders, They're excited about potentially doing something different. So here's my question. What is going to make them go from just being a little bit interested? Because this doesn't sound like a compelling why to me. This sounds like a fishing expedition, right? And so to the point that we were all making earlier, if we don't know what's the thing that's going to make these two stakeholders pull the trigger, then we're just in a fishing expedition. This is just one more opportunity that she had, I think, to get to what's the big compelling reason for you guys to do this? What's the thing that's going to make you say yes? You're nodding, Regina. Were you going to say something?
I couldn't agree more. And we haven't gotten to the end yet, but listening to this was a 47-minute phone call that you've got a stakeholder, not the sole decision maker, on the phone. And we are leaving this call with two other stakeholders that this seller is going to have to go back to the beginning and start over with, quite frankly. And we don't even know what they're looking for going into those next calls. And so that's one of the things that I think is really, I just can't beat the drum loud enough. It's like the why. And I'm really proud of this caller because she got the decision maker, the stakeholder, to start to explore. She gave her tons of little pearls and nuggets out there about global and this and that. And she said, well, what do you like about the competition? But she never asked, what are your other stakeholders going to be looking for?
Right.
And I love your point.
What's the tipping point for all three of you?
Good.
And
Good.
And
I think a tip that you guys have said without saying is, and before we get on this call, let's have the guts to say how many other stakeholders are involved with this decision, and let's pull them into this so we can have a really informed discussion together. Yeah. Not so I get a chance to sell everybody, but let's pull them in so we can have a smart discussion together.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the other kind of things that I see here is, unfortunately, I think this call might go into the CRM as a qualified call, that the seller's going to put it further in the pipeline than it really should be, because she has not really answered all of the questions that she needs to answer for this really qualified call.
But we're all starving for buying signals, right? Like, let's be honest. She had somebody be like, oh, wow, this is great. We're going to move forward. Let me ask some buying signals. This is the one that your rep gets off the phone, comes over and has to sit down and tell you about, that they will forecast for next week.
Yes.
I think you're exactly right.
That's right. I just want to give a little coaching tip here for everybody who's listening. Sometimes we feel nervous to ask about who else, because this is the person we got on the phone and this is the person that was interested. But a really easy way to say it is, who else besides yourself is going to be involved in the decision, and what is the best way for us to interact with them? Or what is the best way for us to involve them? That's not very threatening at all. Mm-hmm. And it will, oh, well, yes, there's going to be a few other people, but they probably won't get on the phone with you because blah, 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 blah. Okay, but that's all right. What's the best way then for us to involve them? Should I make some videos? Would it be helpful if I sent you this for them? Should I write out some bullet points for you, some talking points for you for the meeting? Or would you like to get them all on a call? It's very not threatening.
Questions, right? We can ask for what we want. Right. Would you please gather their questions?
Exactly.
To our call. And I would say that before we move forward, right, I get it on a first call, but if we're on the second or third and we're at like maybe the second half of the buying process, it's also okay to say, I need them on the call.
Mm-hmm. Right. And here's what Alice did that I think is important for people to pick up. She didn't say, and this goes back to confidence, the very beginning of our conversation, she didn't say, can we get those people involved? She didn't ask for permission to get them involved. She said, how are we going to get them involved? What is the right way to get them involved, right? So I know people always say, if you assume, you make an ass out of you and me, but this is one time, ladies, when you want to make the assumption, and that assumption is, we're going to need to get these people involved. So that's a time when you don't want to ask for permission. You want to really be, and it's a soft way, the way Alice said it, but it's more, how are we going to get involved? Not can we get them involved?
It's soft but commanding. I'm saying,
Yes.
how are we going to do this? We're going to discuss this now. We're moving into this. And I want to make a really important point here. And I know everyone's been reading a lot about this. Today, the buyers are getting younger and younger. These buyers don't have experience buying, and they really don't know how to buy. Somebody just said to them, go research this and come back to us, and we're gonna buy. So it becomes our responsibility as sellers to help them understand the buying process for our company. It's different at every company, but we have to figure out a way to help them understand that we do need to know who the other buying influences are and how we're going to involve them, because they're never going to get to a decision at their own company if they can't bring this group to consensus. And if they're not going to let us help them or do it directly, they have to let us help them. So we need to be clear and state the things that we need in order to move the sale forward, so they understand that if they'd like to learn more about purchasing this, here are all the things that are going to need to happen, and we've got to educate them really in how to buy from us.
Well, really back to confidence and saying to them, look, here's what I know about other companies. If we don't get all of the people engaged, you and I are going to hit a roadblock together.
And then help them see the value in that, right? I understand that your timeline is getting this done this quarter, and this sales cycle is typically taking 1 to 3 weeks or whatever the case may be. If you really want to hit your date, we need to pull them in now.
That's right.
All right, let's finish this up.
I mean, if something like this were working for us, I would even, be very happy to like slim down my own sales team and have them, handling literally, the parts and qualifying up, in the sales cycle. So, but not to the level of extreme, but I'm just saying, if we could get a bit of this off of their plate, I think it could be quite beneficial.
You would be so very, very happy, Erin. They would love you so much.
I do every time, because I actually have been really pushing, like I try to do sales training on how to prospect, and I do, like I'm always sending them things about, different ways of tips on prospecting to try and help them, like, make it not so annoying, for lack of a better word. But yeah, they're always really kind of forcing themselves, And then if you don't do it, then, we have a very long sales cycle for our studies, just because they are expensive. We usually do involve multiple decision makers in the process. And so, you don't see those results today or tomorrow. You see them 6 months down the road, and that person is just not making the numbers and going to guys. But it's not a problem of that day. It's a problem of, 6 months before, up to the last 6 months, they weren't doing the prospecting. And their pipelines, basically diminished. So.
Well, I mean, you really nailed it. The thing that people call science is predictable pipelines. So that you take those fluctuations out of the pipeline, because you run out of things. You run out of people.
So I don't know if we have time to skip to the end, but I'm gonna spoiler, I'm gonna burst a little bubble here. There's a point where at the end, the salesperson says, I've been in the next steps, in a little bit of a recap. She says, I'd also be happy to put our founder and CEO on the line or on a call with you. And I think that was a big opportunity that she overlooked, that goes back to a theme at the end of this call. So the marketing director on the buyer side has introduced, this was really key. She brought up the fact that they're stakeholders. So now we have an onus on us she brought them up. We know that they're there. She brought them up for a reason. We've got to address them. We've got to address that they're important. She talks about them throughout the end of this, how important it is to them, and that she wants them to feel comfortable. And as it turns out, the stakeholders she's talking about are the sales team members that would be using the actual product. So to Jane's point, she talks about, get them, let's get talking about, getting the pilot started. And then instead of saying, let's bring our CEO and our founder online, talk about, let's bring in the team that your salespeople would actually talk to on a daily basis. Let's introduce them and get that ball rolling, get them comfortable with it. So turning it back on those people that she introduced, she obviously cares very much about their opinion, is a huge thing. I think that in the next type of call, she could have really made a point to do.
Great. So ladies, we're coming up on time here. Does anybody have any last comments about this call?
I have one. If we could have taken the last half of the call and put it in the beginning, it would have been awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
I love it. Way to sum it up on that. We've had a lot of, let's go to our next one. Some things that we've learned about how to be more confident on the phone. Ladies, help me summarize some of these great tips that we came up with. I'll lead off with Carol. You were saying, ask these questions about the buyer, about the process, about what's important about the why at the beginning of the call. That's my favorite thing I learned from this.
It all starts in the beginning. The close starts the moment you open your mouth and say hello. And with that, what I find a lot of salespeople do, especially when they get someone on the phone, they're excited. Alice mentioned our pitch of our voice goes up. Emotional control at the beginning of the call. Going through, doing a breathing exercise, go for a walk, whatever you need to do to center and ground yourself, that when you start off that call, you're calm, you're cool, and you're in the present moment with that person, so that when you start to hear those questions that you can start getting clarification on, you hear it instead of jumping to what your next question is. And I think we saw that in the beginning of this call, where there was one qualification followed by another, by another, by another, and it was a little interrogative, so to speak, rather than conversational.
Very interesting. Key tip, Alice, on sounding more confident and cutting the fluff. Your favorite thing that people should write down right now.
Well, I think, again, the confidence goes to being prepared, having practiced. So you build rapport quickly, you build that relationship quickly, you get them talking right away. So start with an open-ended question and get them talking. You remember, you control the conversation when they're talking, not when you're talking, because you're able to listen and respond then to what's most important to them. And that will make you more confident, because they'll be like, wow, she really listened to what I said, and she responded directly to it. I feel validated, and I feel like this person knows what they're talking about, because they asked a good question, they listened to the answer, and they responded appropriately. That exudes a lot of confidence then. So we want to be sure that we have our questions ready and that they make sense, and that we can dig into the things that are important to the person that we're talking to on the phone. That will help us be more confident, because they'll look at us as an expert that way.
Beautiful. So write down your key value and your key questions. Regina, one more tip on sounding more confident and cutting the fluff.
I think if everyone who's watching today would take a step back and invest in themselves, you know, proper planning prevents piss poor performance. So whether you're prospecting today, and you need to work on your introduction to engage, whether you're doing follow-up calls and need a nugget of wisdom that you can share about the market, or whether you're getting ready to go on a second level call like we just listened to, have you done the pre-work necessary? Because if you have, you will be more confident. If you think you're going to get in on that call and start to wing it, honey, you're going to fall down. Right. So don't do that. So I would just say I echo everyone else's comments, but Alice is right. You have to be prepared, but are you willing to invest the time to do that so that you're better than everybody else who's calling your same prospects today?
And I just want to say, managers out there, make sure your salespeople are preparing, because I think managers are our worst enemy of the salespeople. Just make the calls. Just make the calls. Don't spend time researching. Just make the calls, because I have to have you call a certain amount, make a certain amount of dials a day. Managers, please help your people prepare.
So that goes right to our next slide. Because we've had such an amazing team of coaches today, I wanted to also extend this cutting the fluff into coaching. I know we've got a lot of managers on the call with us today. So here are some tips from our panel of sales coaching experts. I think this first one was actually from Carol. I think one of these first ones was from you. And I know that you spend day in and day out doing sales coaching. What's your top tip that you see here and that you'd like to talk about?
There's always something to improve on, but you can take an hour-long call like we had before, and there was so much feedback there that if you try to give a rep all of that feedback on that one call, they're going to be completely overwhelmed, deer in the headlights, not sure what to do first. So find one thing, and it's typically in the beginning of the call, that can help to change the outcome of the rest of the call.
Yeah, I think that's great. Really good. Jane, you made a point in your notes coming into the call saying even top performers are critical to coach. Can you talk about that for a moment?
Even top performers what?
It's critical to coach even top performers.
Oh yeah. So we ignore our top performers. And I think to your very last bullet on the slide, encouragement isn't fluff. We need to know we're doing well and what it is that we're doing well. The other reason I like to see you coach your top performers is a lot of managers don't know what it is that their top performers do that their mid performers don't, right? There are best practices right in your company, and you've got tier 1 sellers exhibiting those best practices every day. Do you know what they are? And do you know how to leverage that for that middle group, that if you just move that middle group incrementally, it's exponential in terms of your revenue.
Exponential.
So have to coach your top performers.
That's really good. By the way, when I teach folks how to do call coaching, which CSO Insight says is managers' #1 worst skill, right? So we all need some help being better coaches. One of the hardest things to get, and ladies, we were guilty of it today, is we really focused on how do we make the call better, right? If there was somebody live with us today, we would have had to reverse that ratio, right? It's really hard for managers to lead in with the positive and the encouragement and not give this laundry list of things to do better. So that's why I added that part of encouragement isn't fluff. Before we get on tips on up-leveling the career, Sean, I want to come to you. Do you have one last tip on coaching from, the owner of the selling agency? What's the #1 thing that you recommend?
And this is for all coaches. I coach volleyball, Girl Scouts, sellers, business owners. It's people have to believe that you believe they can do it.
Bingo.
If they don't believe that you believe they can be successful, then everything just breaks down from there. So you've got to be that champion that goes into it with so much positive intent. I think that's intent was mentioned there. That if they don't feel you believe, that it just doesn't. They're not going to soak it up and learn and want to change and want to improve their skills.
It's just like when we're talking.
It shouldn't be punitive.
Yes, exactly. They've got to be engaged as well. So I think this is a bonus slide and probably my very favorite one. Let's talk about women who might have this little voice inside saying, I think I might want to move up, right? Let's give some tips about that because we need to change those percentages we saw at the beginning of the slide. Regina, I'm going to come to you first. You had so many tips in this area, and you've obviously done this through your career at rising up to the top ranks.
Well, I really like the point here about building a diverse network. I firmly believe that your network is your net worth. And building those meaningful, valuable relationships anywhere and everywhere you go in your career. When you're ready for that next step, you've got a lot of open doors available to you. And so invest time in building those relationships professionally and personally as you continue to develop your career overall. And that's one of the things that has paid off in spades for me personally.
I love it, which is, it hits bullet 2, right? Making sure you're known beyond your team. Alice, you said this, I think like 7 times, in times we've talked how important it is to have a mentor, right? Talk to us about that.
Well, and I think that men do this a little better than women more naturally. They kind of hang out with the best guy on the team or whatever and see what he's doing and figure it out, or they ask maybe for like, how can you help me? Women, stand up for yourselves. Find someone that is doing it, that's crushing it, that is got skills that you don't have yet, that has a style that you like, and ask them, can I listen to your calls? Can I go on a sales call with you? Would you spend a few minutes with me at lunch or over coffee, giving me some tips, maybe once a week or once a month? Don't be afraid to ask. There's so many people who will help you, but they don't even know you need help. They're so wrapped up in their own world. They're not looking over there going, hey, do you need help? So please speak up and find a mentor, find someone who is happy to help you continually improve.
Oh, that's so good. We only have time. I'm going to go to the next slide really quick because it's hard to know where to find these people to help. The first thing I want to point out is that a bunch of these women were all members of Women's Sales Pros, womensalespros.com. If you're looking for a coach role models, speakers, etc. Find a plethora of women on that site. The second thing I'm going to want to plug here is Girls Club. This is a new training program only for women, designed to take women at the front line and reps and move into the front lines of sales leadership. And our goal is to change the face of sales leadership one woman at a time. Each of these amazing panel of experts are involved as thought leaders in this program. And as you can see some of those bullet points, it's a really rich program. It kicks off in 2 weeks. Go to wearegirlsclub.com to get more information about that. Sam, I think you want to close out by telling us what's coming next week, right?
So next week, if you have been missing Steve, he's going to be on InsideSales.com's Army of Sales Reps. I believe he's speaking Wednesday. I've dropped a link in the chat box for you to sign up. Every attendee will get the recordings for a month, and there's 30 speakers total, so definitely something worth checking out. Thanks for tuning in as always, and next month, Steve's back in the office, so get excited for the next call camp.
Awesome. Thanks for having us. Thank you, ladies, for your very, very valuable time today.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.